Hello, I want to welcome you all to MAC1105 College Algebra for the Spring 2021 semester. What I'm going to be doing in this video, I'm just going to show you everything that's on Canvas. Pretty much what you're going to see is everything that you need for the class is in here. And I just want to show you where to find everything. So the home page and the modules page are the same. I have them separated. But you're going to spend most of your time on this page anyway. At the top, the course information here, you'll see these 5 things, and then after I make this video, you'll see a 6th one for the introduction video, and that's where you'll find this video anyway. But pretty much anything you need for the course not related to the specific math of the course is going to be in here. So if you click on student office hours, what you'll see is you'll see my office hours that are on Zoom. I do have a couple office hours that are through email only, which I will show you on the syllabus, but these are my office hours on Zoom. And there's just this invitation here. If you've used Zoom before, you know how to get to it. If not, you can just copy, go to this address, and then as long as you have Zoom downloaded, it'll open up. And inside here, I have meeting ID and password. So if you can't access it through this, or you're on your phone, maybe you have to access it by typing in the meeting ID and password. But that's how where you'll find the office hours. Now, if I go back to the home page, the next thing right under it is our Zoom link for our live meetings. It's a different Zoom ID and different password, because this is specific for your class. Now, this video, I just chose one of my college algebra sections, but this is the only place you'll see a difference for the other college algebra sections is the dates and times. But this class is every Tuesday and Thursday, starting at 11. And here's all the dates. You don't have to memorize this or have this at all memorized. Just have it written out from the invitation. But the link is down here, and the meeting ID and password are down here as well. Right. Now, I guess one subtle difference is that with the live classes, you can just come on in. There's no waiting room or anything. If you come to office hours, there is a waiting room because those will be one-on-one. And if there's already a student in there, you'll just have to wait a few minutes. I have this student resources tab, and it's just quite a few things with regards to getting help outside of class for math, and then also, a couple pages specific for, general TCC things. So virtual TCC. Yeah, it has all these links if you need to find something that you need some information about. Are right here. And then student resources. This was specific about the the COVID virus. But one thing I will recommend is if using the Learning Commons is nice, and here's a flyer on how to access it, and then there's also a short video on how to access it. You can do it virtually, and you can also, unless it changes, you'll be able to go to the Learning Commons in person as well. But as far as I know right now, it's virtual. What else is in here? Course information, syllabus, and pacing. So I'll talk about the syllabus more in a minute, since that's going to take most of our time. But the other thing I have here is Desmos Online Graphing Calculator. The reason I have this up here is graphing calculators are expensive, and you don't really need one except for one problem in this course. And if you don't have one, spending $100 on a calculator just to do one problem probably isn't worth it. So if you click on this, I have a short video on how to use it, get to the calculator and everything on YouTube, and you can watch that. It's very easy to use, but one thing I will say is that you only want to use it for graphing capabilities. So if you want a calculator that can do calculations, multiplying, adding, subtracting, whatever, all that stuff, you should get a different calculator for that. And I'll talk about those in the syllabus. All right. So yeah, that's all I can really say right now before we get down to the rest. I'm going to go ahead and look at the syllabus. I'm not going to read through the whole thing, but just know that it's here. Once again, it's on the modules or homepage, syllabus and pacing. It's also located in the syllabus tab, which I'll show you later. But I just really wanted everything on the same page for you all. All right, so this is the syllabus. Like I said, this is the for this section. If you have a different section, you'll see a different time, but all the office hours are the same for every class. The Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday hours are here, and then my Friday hours 9 to 11 a.m. are email. So I won't be on Zoom then. You can come by, but I won't be there, and you'll just be waiting. But during those times, if you send me an email, I'll respond very quickly, unless if I'm responding to someone else. All right, but just to hit on the main points of the syllabus, so this is MAC 1105, College Algebra. You either passed MAT 1033 or you took some sort of placement test to know that you're in here. You might be dual enrolled to be in here as well. And this class opens up a lot of different math classes as well. So MAC 1114, 1140, MAC 2233, and you need to get at least a C. There's also some science classes you have to take. You have to pass this course to be able to take as well. I don't know them all off the top of my head. All right, so it's required to purchase a scientific or graphing calculator. So what I recommend if you don't have a graphing calculator is just get a scientific calculator. The TI-30 works great, as I have written here. It can do the basic arithmetic better than a TI-83 or 84, and it only costs about 15 bucks. And then for the graphing stuff, you can just use the Desmos online calculator. But if you do have a graphing calculator already, you can use that at TI-83 or 84. Well, I don't really know. I can figure out, but I don't know how to use all of them. So if you ask me questions specific to a different graphing calculator, I might not know how to answer them, at least right away. And then I have the extra thing. You may use the online graphing calculator at desmos.com. It's also a website you can visit during the tests. You're allowed to use it during the tests as well. All right. Probably the most important thing that people want to look at is the grading scale. So the grading scale is pretty normal. I have this already rounded, so 89.5 instead of a 90 is an A. But I will say this is already rounded, so 89.4, that's not really 0.1 away from an A, that's 0.6 away from an A. And I won't be rounding any further than this. So if you have an 89.2 and you ask me, are you going to get an A? I'm going to tell you need an 89.5. Right, and we'll talk more about how you can possibly improve your grade at the end of the semester if you are close in a little bit. But these are the important dates and then also how your grade's calculated. So each of tests 1, 2, and 3 are worth 15% of your grade. And the dates here you see, this is when they are available. So test 1 is due February 14th. They're all due on Sundays, and it opens up February 10th. That's 5 days you have to do them, but you must do them in one sitting. And then test 2 and 3 and then the final are very similar in that nature. You have many days you can do them, but you must do them in one sitting. The final exam is longer than the 3 tests, I believe. You get a little more than 2 hours on the final exam. Normally it's 2 hours, but with technology, give you a few more minutes. And even though our class time is 75 minutes, I made each of these tests 90 minutes. So you should have plenty of time to do them. All right, so that's 65% of your grade, and then the other 35%, 25% of that comes from homework and 10% from quizzes. Now the quizzes, the homework is very important. That's why it's worth more than any individual test. You see that it's even worth more than the final exam. There's a lot of questions that we just can't ask on any of the tests that the homework will ask you. So make sure you're doing that. The quizzes will be more so in line with what's on the test. So the homework will be a broad collection of questions, and then the quizzes will be more closely related to what's on the test. And I'll talk more about each one individually in a minute. And then the practice tests, as I have here, they're 0%, so they're not graded, but you can get bonus points if you do them, and they're very, very similar to the test. So it's a good idea to do them. All right, now like I said, the unit tests 1 through 3 are timed 90 minutes. They will be a blend of short answer, which all the homework is, and then there will be some multiple choice questions. And then the final exam, it's similar blend like that, but it's departmental, meaning everyone that takes this course, all MAC1105 students take the same final. As far as how it's structured, so normally in person we get 2 hours, but I believe you'll have 2 hours and 30 minutes just in case there's any technology issues you have at that extra time. The online homework. So this, all your math questions, tests, quizzes, homework, practice tests are all going to be through the same homework system, which I'll call OHM. Is built into Canvas. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to pay for anything. As soon as you have access to Canvas, you're using it. Like I said, everything's going to be on the module tab, so you'll find everything related to it there. And your homework grade is based solely on correctness. You can do questions over and over again until you get them right. So I'll show you how that works. What I'm saying here is you can get 100% on any homework assignment. Even if you get one problem wrong 20 times, if you get it right on the 21st time, it's right. And then I'll talk about late passes. Some of you might not be familiar with them. Some of you might be familiar with them, but you can use late passes on the homework assignments. However, as I will reiterate throughout the course, it is important to stay on track. If you fall behind, you're going to have a lot of catching up to do, which isn't that easy to do in a math class. But also, pretty much a lot of stuff we do builds on previous things. So if you're falling behind, if you miss some stuff, then stuff later on might not make any sense. All right, quizzes. There will be 9 quizzes in total. 8 are math quizzes and the same thing, and then there's a syllabus quiz. I'm going through the syllabus now, so after you watch this, you can just take it. The way that the quizzes will be different, as you'll see, is you'll only get 3 chances per question. The homework, like I said, you can do as many times as you want. The quizzes, after you answer it 3 times, if you get it wrong all 3 times, it's wrong and there's nothing you can do. And then I believe I changed this because of our schedule. So I'll just look at the pacing, but I believe the first syllabus quiz is actually due on Sunday, not Wednesday, since we had a weird starting date for the semester. And I forgot to edit that. All right. But one thing I want to point out, you will not be able to use late passes on the quizzes, and I thought I had it written in here, but it's on Canvas. More specifically, it's your lowest quiz grade is dropped. So just bear that in mind. It drops automatically throughout the semester, so if you see your quiz grade go down drastically after the first couple of quizzes, it's probably, or up, it's because it's dropping one of them. It automatically drops the lowest one as you go. All right, the practice tests, for each test, there will be a practice test. They're all going to be due the day before the test is due. And they're not graded, like I said. They're just like the homework, except they're not really graded. But if you get an A, so here I'm meaning a 90 to 100%, not anything rounded on a practice test, then I will give you a 3% extra credit boost on that test, including the final. So one thing I want to point out here, let me actually go ahead and show this. The tests are worth 65% of your grade. which changing to a decimal is 0.65. And then if you get 3% on each, so 60.65 times 3 is 1.95. What that means is if you do all the practice tests and you get A's on all of them, you get a 2% bonus, basically a 2% boost to your final exam score, final grade score. So if you're sitting at an 87.9 and you didn't do any of the practice tests, just having done them would have gotten you an A, and you missed out. So make sure you do them. 2% can mean a lot at the end of the semester. Course content. So what I'm going to show you what's in the modules page. It's not just the homework. There's links. There's a link to the textbook. I don't really recommend it just because it's so thorough and in-depth. You really only want to use it as a last resort. But I put my own lecture videos up there with the notes that I use, and then I also have the filled out notes. So take your pick which one you like to do. And I'll have some recommendations. And you don't have to worry about, you can read this example, but each section has a homework assignment. Everything just describing Canvas is on here. So I'll show you on Canvas specifically. The one thing is you will be required to submit your work on tests. This means you cannot simply memorize random shortcuts on problems for getting the correct answer. You will need to show your work. Right, and I have already on Canvas a link on how to go about uploading your work because it'll have to be a PDF. But there will be a practice scenario before the first test is due when you will do that. And then if you do it incorrectly, it does count for a homework grade, but I'll make sure you get it corrected so that you get the credit for the homework grade, and also you know how to do it when the test comes around. Okay, so the main things way we'll be interacting is on Zoom. There's our live times. As you see here, I call it live Q&A, and I'll explain why as we go through. And then my office hours that are on Zoom as well. So for the live Q&A or the class session times, so this class, Tuesday, Thursday, 11 to 12:15, there's a Zoom link that I already showed you about. And this is really a time where you can come in, it's just your class. So my office hours are open to all my classes, which means you might be competing with about 200 other students for my time. But with class sessions, you only have the 30 other students, and on any given day, there might only be 5 questions, so you can get all your questions answered for sure. But this is the time to ask any questions you have related to the class. So homework questions, maybe you just don't know how to do a homework problem, you can ask that one. If you have a question about your grade, I don't usually like to do that during class time unless you're the only one there, but there is a private chat feature, in Zoom, which you can private chat with me about. You can ask general questions about the class. Keep in mind that all the dates and everything are in Canvas, so you don't need to go out of your way to ask me when is something due or something else like that. But you can ask general questions. You can ask questions about the lecture video or note maybe something didn't make sense to you. The one thing I'll say is come prepared to ask questions. I'll talk about what I would do as far as approaching this class if I was the student, the way it's set up, what I think is going to be best for you. But probably the best thing is when you're watching the lecture videos, hopefully you're taking notes, and then you'll work on the homework alongside it. If you struggle with one, just write down the section that you're having trouble with and the number. So let's say section 2.4, number 7 on the homework. You don't know how to do it, you can tell me that and I can easily pull it up. You don't have to read it to me or anything like that. But the one thing I want to really make sure I state is that it's not a lecture. So you're not coming to class for a lecture. I put the lecture videos on Canvas, which I'll show you. They're embedded from YouTube. I made them very specifically for this class, so it goes along with the homework. It goes along really in order of the homework questions. And when you look at the notes, you can kind of like pick the time of the video where I'm going over a specific question. But every single question will be talked about. Now, there are a few word problem question sections where obviously I don't do every word problem. You have to draw the parallels yourself and ask questions on that if you're stuck. But just keep in mind that everything's there for you. So the way I like to describe this is that it's kind of like office hours, but for your class. So you're not coming to get a lecture. There's many reasons why I think it's disadvantageous. It's a disadvantageous. Learning how to speak. Why I don't want to do lectures live. Internet connections, mine can go bad, which would be bad for everyone. Yours could go bad, which would be bad for you, and then you miss it. Kind of wasted your time coming to class because then you can't even really participate. So at least you'll be able to look at the lectures at any time because they're on Canvas. The entire course is already ready. And then you can just come with your questions. All right, so office hours. Like I said, all office hours are virtual, and I can always be reached through email, but I do have those Zoom hours, which I showed you at the beginning. This is more personalized, so like a one-on-one time. What I would suggest is that you come to class time and ask your questions. If you don't feel confident asking questions in front of other people, you can just chat it, type it in the chat. You can even type it in private chat to me if you don't want other people to know what you're asking. So really, you want to use this if you can't come to class or you have a very more personal question about your grades or a situation that you're dealing with. But of course, you can use office hours to ask questions as well. But it's just a one-on-one time. I typically like to limit them to 30 minutes, especially if someone else is waiting. This really hasn't been an issue before. I haven't had someone wait more than like 10 minutes. Usually everyone's pretty respectful about that time limit, and it's just something I want you to keep in mind. Don't come to office hours asking 100 questions. You can come to class time, ask your main questions, and then if you have a few extra ones, come to office hours, of course. And then, like I said, very similar to the live sessions. I can answer any questions you have, but you are competing with a lot more students. You're competing with every single student I have during office hours. Right, this is the main thing I want to talk about is how to approach this course, because what would happen to me if I saw how long the YouTube videos are is I would get overwhelmed immediately. What I want you to think about is that each class we would have 75 minutes and we would spend a lot of that time lecturing. It's just something we have to do in math. I have to show you how to do something. I can't just tell you to do it. So that's why we have to lecture so much. You'll notice that a lot of the lecture videos are 45 minutes or less. It does seem like a long time to watch a YouTube video, but one thing you'll see very quickly when you watch videos is I'm very thorough. So if you understand something, you can probably fast forward it or make the time go faster. You can pause it as you need to, but the biggest thing, I have adhering to the pacing schedule. You're really kind of forced to do this with the quizzes anyway. If you fall behind, then you'll fall behind on the quizzes and you can't do them late. And then you'll definitely fall behind for the test. But this is my biggest recommendation. Don't try to watch all the videos at once. Meaning that first video, I think our first video is one of the longer ones because it's a review section of all factoring and solving equations. It's about an hour long. I don't want or hope none of you watch it straight through and do nothing with it. Meaning, what I want you to do is either print out the notes or take notes as you go. But every 10 to 15 minutes, maybe after every single problem, look over at the homework and see, okay, he did one like this. Let's see if I can do it on my own. It'll help you do the homework as you go, and you won't have to watch that much of a lecture in a row. So you might spend, upwards of 2 to 3 hours on the longer sections, some hours as little as maybe 45 minutes in total watching the video, but that's alongside pausing and doing the homework. And so that's why I really recommend working the homework as you go. Don't do the entire video, then try to do all the homework. Right? Watch a couple of questions, maybe one, maybe three, just depending on how you're feeling about that section, and then try to do the homework. Okay, and then the biggest thing is asking for help if you need it. I know with an online class, it can feel like you're on your own, but I want to emphasize that you're not on your own. Okay. And you can read, many ways to contact me if you need help, and also the Learning Commons, like I showed you earlier, is a good resource too. So I'll mention this much closer, but the withdrawal deadline is March 26th. It's the last day to drop the class. I have the important dates below. You can read through this for help outside of class. It's kind of what I just mentioned. And then I guess skipping over this, but attendance. Because I have my lectures pre-recorded, if you don't have any questions, there's no reason why you need to come to class. You're always welcome to come and ask questions, but if you don't have any questions, there's really nothing for you to do. One thing I would say, if you're not coming to class, at least try to do something for this class at that time. If you're signed up for this specific one, so this was Tuesday, Thursday, 11 to 12:15, I would try to at least do something for this class during that time. Maybe it's watching the videos and doing the homework. Maybe it's just, something else. Maybe you come to class, but you do the video, watch the videos, do homework in the background, and then ask questions as you come across them. That would be fine. Doing practice problems. Just try to do something during the class time. Communication, long story short, emails, Canvas messaging, and Canvas announcements are the main ways we'll communicate. However, with regards to email, it needs to be your TCC email. If you email me from something that's not your TCC email, I'm not ignoring you, but I don't know if it's really you. I can't confirm if it's really you. There's a lot of reasons why I will not respond to those. So if you email me and you don't get a response, that's why. Monday through Friday, I will respond to any email within 24 hours. I usually do it much quicker, but sometimes get busy with work and everything, so I'm not sure. I can't guarantee, within a couple hours, but I'll do it as quickly as possible. And if you email me after 5 p.m. on Friday, you may not get an email back before Monday, so just be aware of that. You need a computer to do this course. It's all online anyway. Students with disabilities, the main point here is always, if you get extra time for tests, you need to tell me. You need to let me know, send me that letter so I can give you that extra time. If you never tell me, you don't tell me until the day of the test being due, and then you don't have that letter, I can't give it to you. So you need to make sure you're on top of that. And you probably don't want to stop by right now. I don't even know if they're back in person in that office, but you can call them just to make sure. All right. So the last thing is for tests, you will be proctored using HonorLock. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it now. I have an outline up here, but there's an HonorLock video on how to get on there. So I'll just show you where that video is and you can watch it. One of the things I know most people hate about HonorLock is getting flagged when they're not doing anything wrong, and then you get panicked and think you're going to fail when you haven't cheated. So, one thing is that with doing math, you are going to look down at your paper a lot to write down your questions and your work for your questions, and this can flag you. I'm not going to take off points if you're just looking down and it looks like you're doing work. Now, if you're looking down and I hear some noises coming from a phone or something, yes, that's very different. But if you're just looking down on your desk to do your homework, that's fine. Or show your work. The last thing on the syllabus here, the important dates. So I already talked about the tests. Classes officially begin tomorrow. I'm making this on Wednesday. Last date out of class is January 8th, which is Friday. Probably the most important thing is the last day of withdrawal is January 13th, which is next Wednesday, with a refund. So if next Wednesday comes around, you don't like the way this class is going to be, then you can drop it and get your full refund. And then the withdrawal deadline, March 26th, you don't get a refund at that point, but at least you can get a W instead of an F or a D on your transcript. Your grades will be available May 4th or earlier. So May 4th is the last day they'll be available. When it comes to workday, grades pop up as you finish, as I submit my grades. So if I finish early, then they'll be up before May 4th. Okay, and then the holidays, at least for the Martin Luther King Jr. Day, that's a Monday, so it doesn't affect this specific class, but the Monday, Wednesday classes it does. And then spring break, March 15th to 19th. So the other thing that I wanted to point out, I'm not going to go through the pacing in detail. It's just the way kind of the way the class is going to go as far as the speed. So you'll see what I here as far as the pacing. This is the Tuesday, Thursday, like I said, so Monday, Wednesday class, I would have Monday, Wednesday here, but I pretty much have it broken down into how I would go about doing the course. All right, so on any given week, I write lecture due just because there's nothing really to do there. You should do the homework, but the homework's not due till the Friday of the week. But you should be watching the lectures and hopefully doing the homework alongside them. So starting next week, which is what I call week 1, hopefully you watch this introduction before then. If not, you should watch it then, and then also start section 1.1, and then Thursday, finish 1.1 and also start 2.1. And then the homework due, it says module 0 and 1.1. Module 0 is just a quick thing to help you know how to type math in. So that's why it's there. And then section 1.1. And then on Sundays, this is when the quizzes or tests are due. So Fridays, homework's due. Sundays, quizzes and tests are due. One thing I want to mention, like I said before, the tests are open for many days. So even though test 1 is due February 14th, it actually opens February 10th, which is Wednesday of that week. Open for a long time. And one thing is that I will remind you on those weeks when they come up, but practice tests are due the day before, which would be the Saturdays of tests. So practice test 1 will be due February 13th, for example. The only extra thing here is the practice honor lock test is due January 31st. That's Sunday right here. I will send a reminder about that. I just didn't want to throw it on here and have it look like there was an extra test that's not really there. But you can see this week here is when spring break is, so there's nothing then. And then worry about it way in the future, but the finals week, it's just taking the final. So there's nothing specific on here about that. All right, so like I said, that was going to be the main time. All I want to do right now really is show you how the quizzes work, the practice tests work, and the homeworks work. I'm not going to show you how the tests work because I made a video for that separately. But the first thing below here is quizzes. So how quizzes work, this is how I described it in the syllabus. You can read this on your own time. I guess the most important thing is that your lowest quiz will be dropped. Now how they work, I'm going to open up a random quiz just so you can see. And then start, it's going to be like the homework, so you don't have to submit it. If you don't finish it all in one sitting, you can go back to it. But the way it works, you'll notice here, it says I have 3 tries remaining on this question. So I'm going to just click randomly and get it wrong 3 times on purpose. You'll notice that once I'm down to no tries, this thing pops up and I can't click anything else, so I'm done with that. And it'll tell you the answer, but you can't get credit for it. And then you can go on to the next question. In the next question. And I'm not going to answer that, but just to get this partially right, I'm going to submit this. You'll notice that when you get some credit, it'll tell you how many points you got on this problem. And you still have more tries, so you can do this one again. So it says you can retry. But after you run out of tries, you can't do it again. All right, like I said, you can hit done, but with quizzes, you can go back in. So you can also hit resume and then go back to it. All right. Now, in contrast to homework, so I'm going to scroll down here to the homeworks real quick. The homework is pretty similar. There's not really any multiple choice, but I'm just going to, you'll notice that I get 3 tries and now I'm down to 2. Now I have 1 more. Okay, I got it wrong 3 times. It'll tell me the answer, but unlike the quizzes, you can get a similar question. Once you hit that, it'll generate a new question, and then you just answer it. So let's see. I really should have done this. Let me pause it. All right, so I went ahead and got this problem right. I just want to show you what happened. So once you get a problem right, it counts. Your record score is 4 out of 4. You still have more tries. I don't expect most people would do a problem that they already got it right again. But if you wanted to practice some more, you can get a similar question, and if you get it wrong, it still keeps your score. So as soon as you get a problem right, it's right forever. One thing I want to mention is that this first section of homework, everyone has the same exact questions. That's why when I get a similar question, it's the same one every time. After this one, they're all random. So, the reason for that is I find that the first section is one of the hardest because it's a review of a lot of different things. And I want to be able to kind of help out everyone together instead of doing one problem for one person and another problem from another person, so you all have the same thing. All right, but like I said, you just do the homework like normal. And then if you're done for now, you can hit done. If you want to go back into it, just go to modules again. It's automatically going to grade it, but it doesn't mean your grade's final. And then you can go back and click on the homework again and resume. All right, so like I said, the grades will come up anytime you do any progress, make any progress. So for that homework, that's my current score right now. My grade looks terrible because that's all I've done. And then that quiz I randomly clicked on too. But you can go back into quizzes, homeworks, and then practice tests. So just to show you the quizzes thing, if I click on the quizzes, the one I started, I can just resume because it's not past the due date, even though I already started it. All right, so the last thing before I talk about the modules themselves, which will be the last main thing I talk about, the practice test. I have the bonuses described here, just like I did in the syllabus. If you get an A on the practice test, which is at least a 90, you'll get a 3% boost on the corresponding test grade. They work exactly like the homework, but there you cannot use a late pass. So once they're due, that's it. All right. So how do late passes work? Actually, let me just click on a practice test real quick to show you that it's just like the homework. You'll notice I have the 3 tries here. If I get it wrong 3 times, if I get a similar question, I get a new one. So different than the quiz, same as the homework. All right, now how do late passes work? If you notice I put this due date back a while ago, this is a fake assessment that's going to be gone by the time you access the course. But if I click on this, it'll tell me this assignment was due then. You have 100 late passes, which is how many you'll start with. Each one extends the deadline by 3 days. So I need to use 5 to extend it by 15 days. And then if I want to, click it, and then I can go into it and you'll notice that the due date here isn't really the due date anymore. And then I can answer it. Now this question has nothing to do with this course. It doesn't need to make any sense. I was just showing you how to use that. But the software in the background keeps track of your amount of late passes remain. So once you run out, that's it, and you can only use them on the homework, nothing else. All right, this is the test section, which once again, I have an FAQ here. Click on this, and there's a video and some description on it. I would watch this video first. If you've never used Unlock, on how to get on it. But the last thing I want to talk about is what's in each section. So if you scroll down here to Unit 1, you'll notice that every section has these 4 things. It has what looks like a book, these 2 paper clips, and then a paper. So the first thing is the lecture video. If you click on that, what it'll do is bring up a link. You can watch it in here, or you can watch it on YouTube, and it's just me going through the notes. This video will, and I have it separated by sections. So if you look at the blank notes, I'm going to look at the blank notes corresponding to this section. I have this one broken down into 4 parts. And then what the video is that it's broken down into 4 parts. So let's say you're watching a video, you totally understand this first section, and you don't need to watch all of it. Well, then you can just go to the second section. All right. And then also there's a lot of options to speed it up, so you can play it faster if it's easy for you. But like I said, what I recommend doing is watching the video. If you have 2 monitors, it would be really easy, but even without 2 monitors, watch the video. Take notes either by printing out the blank notes or just writing your own notes from this. And then what I would do is have the homework for that section open in another tab. So you have to watch the lecture video for a while, then you're like, okay, I did those first couple problems. Let me show you. This is the first problem I do in the video. And then you'll notice that this looks very similar to that problem. So that's what I mean, is it's really in order. So maybe you watch that first one, you're like, okay, I got it. Then pause it, do that one, and then do that one. And you're like, okay, that one looks a little different. Let me see if it's, how to do it in there, and so on. So it's pretty much all in order. And one thing I want to mention, there's also videos for specific questions. So maybe, you can't see a problem specifically like this in the video, or, everything's covered one way or another, but you don't see how it relates to any problems in the video. You click on the video. Oops, actually have to just click on the video and it'll pop up how to do a similar one. A lot of times what they'll do in these videos though is they'll do ones that are much harder. So it's hard to draw parallels. Right. So that's what's in each section. Like I said, every section already has a lecture video with everything filled out. There is just one exception, which I'll remind you way in advance, but section 12.2. It really belongs in section 12.1, but whoever designed the course separated it. So when, I'm not saying you're even watching this video, you don't really need to watch it at this point, but the one video in here, there's only one problem, and I made the video, so it's sort of like lecture video. So that's pretty much everything that's on the modules page. I know this video is going on kind of long at this point. Announcements, if I send any announcements, they'll be there. If you click on the Zoom link, like I said, it'll have all the invitations, so you can join here if you don't want to join the other way. These are for just the specific class. And then I also record them, so after the meeting, it gets recorded, and then I will upload it here. It usually takes about 10 minutes after class is done, and then you can watch that if you want. But keep in mind what's going to be in these Zoom videos, that's just going to be problems people ask. So it might not be that helpful unless if you are the one asking questions. we went over the modules page, syllabus page. I said the syllabus and pacing are right here again. Some people like the syllabus page because it has all the due dates to everything. One thing I will say is that it has some stuff that it's not helpful to click on. For example, when you do any test or the practice test, I know it's a little confusing. There's one that says click here and there's one that says do not enter here. If you try to enter here, you're just going to ask for a password. The reason why it says do not enter here is you have to click on this one to go through the process to get on and get the password. But outside of that, this page is pretty nice. It has all the due dates. It has how the every grades are weighted and everything. Your grades tab is where your grades are, of course. I already showed you. One thing that's nice is you can kind of play around with this. It won't actually change your grade for real, but if you especially by the end of the semester, if you have everything but your final exam done, which will go right here. And let's say, I think I'm going to get an 80 on the final. Then it will figure out what your test or your overall average will be. All right. So it's fun to play around with your grades, see what you need to get to the next level. You pretty much never need to use the honor lock and quizzes page, but I have to have them open so I can use them on my end. The quizzes are just the same links for the tests besides the syllabus quiz. There is a resource called Study Edge. I can't actually get on it because I'm not a real student, and it might not even be available yet because the semester hasn't started. But it's basically just videos anyway. It's a nice resource. But since I have the videos and you can ask me questions, you don't necessarily need to use it. I think the Learning Commons is better. All right, so I know this video went on pretty long. I wanted it to be 30 minutes and it's actually 47, but it should cover everything that you need. If you have any questions, just let me know. I'm sure I always miss a couple things here and there. But overall, that should be it. Like I said, everything as far as the tests go, specifically submitting your work, there's videos for that. If you click on any one of these test works, I found a little video on how to use it and I wrote down, but you just hit submit assignment and upload your file that you make.